Hi, everybody. This is Heather Aston with Campbell Creations, and today I'm bringing you a very simple but elegant design. Any of you that grew up in the 90s probably already know what I'm making. They're called hand chains, and they were very popular then. And they're a unique way to dress up the top of your hand um, and to create a beautiful piece. You don't need a lot of beads. Let's see, I'll tell you total what it is I'm going to use today. 1, 6. I'm using a total of 10 beads today, and I'm using some bigger ones, and you don't have to use as many as I do. You can keep it even more simple if you like. But I'm going to go through and show you how to put one together today. I have a couple of examples to show you. And then tonight, I'm going to do a live over on my macrame page, Titi's Trinkets and Treasures. And I'll do a live and I'm going to show you how to use macrame to make a foot/anklet version of this very simplistic design. And in fact, I might just have to make a couple of cute little ones for my little granddaughter so that she can have shoes. Not that it will be shoes, but they'll be great. I'm just showing you how to do it with macrame cording. So that way, if you are wearing it when you're at the beach or whatever else, and it gets wet, you don't have to worry about having messed it up in any way, shape, or form. So let's go ahead and go down to my mat, and we will get started. So what we are going to be making, I'm going to show you a sample that I already have finished. And it is just a very simple, basic pattern that you're going to do. I like to use flat gemstones when I do this, unless I'm using small seed beads. But I like to use flat beads, as in coin beads, tile beads, things of that nature. If you were using very small gemstones, it would be perfect. Those would be okay because they're itty bitty. And I like to do them with that small. But on this one, I used Amazonite quatrefoil beads that are flat on either side. And I just happened to have this quatrefoil chain, and I found it in both silver plated and gold plated. So I think it's just really beautiful. And as you can see, it didn't take many beads. This one, it only took 9 beads to do. The one I'm going to show you today, we're doing 10 beads. But it's very simple, and then you just simply slide it either over either one of your middle fingers is fine. And then it just sits like that. And because we like to say that bracelets are for us, necklaces, other people see earrings, other people see, whereas these bracelets are something that we see and that are our pretties that we get to do. So if you did something like this and kept it very simple, it would still be very comfortable to wear at the office, typing, whatever else. Throw a little bit of extra pizzazz into your attire that day and just really jazz things up. So I'm going to be completely honest. This isn't the first time I'm recording this video. It didn't process when it was supposed to, so I'm going to redo it. But on this one, which we are making one that's almost identical to this, but not quite, I simply use some garnet tile beads and some gorgeous labradorite kite beads, both of which I got from Sam's Bead Shop. So these ones I just got like in the mail last week, and I love them, and they're gorgeous and stunning. I will be completely honest, some of the drill holes had to be fixed, and when trying to drill one, it was like it was drilled all through one side. So there would be one big hole, and then I was finding that it wasn't going all the way through. And while doing so, I did sacrifice a bead. It chipped. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with that. I saved it for a very special reason. So I've got a little collection of broken beads, chipped beads, whatever that I've lost along the way. And I'm going to try to use those by maybe breaking them up a little bit more or crushing them all together. I don't really know quite yet. And then I'm going to put them in resin and repurpose them so that they don't just go to waste. I try not to be wasteful in my designs and as much as I can avoid it. So we're going to make this one. And as you can see on this one, I used instead of using a jump ring, which is what I used on the other one, just to get everything to come together, I used a little connector. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So that connector was originally a 4-loop connector like this. And I was like, oh, I don't need it. It's okay. I cut it off. I filed it down with my little rotary tool so you couldn't even tell. And then when I went to put it on at the end of the last video, I was like, oh, if I still had that loop, I could have had a dangling labradorite. And I was like, man, I can't believe I did that. Well, in this version, I'm not going to take off the 4th loop. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. We're going to attach a labradorite dangle just so it looks beautiful, and we're going to go from there. But this is the basic design of what we're doing today. Now, I did go ahead and get some of the pieces ready ahead of time, but I want to talk about the different little pieces. So, as you can see on this one, I did use 2 types of chain. I went ahead and I used the very thin silver plated Shanghai chain that I just love making things with. I think it's just beautiful. But I use this around the finger, and then I use this 3mm Rolo chain. And I'm going to tell you, you could very easily do the whole thing with the Rolo chain. And then it would look more like that on your hand. Let's see if it will zoom in on where it's supposed to. There we go. It would look like that. And this sits perfectly fine. It doesn't bother me. And most of you already heard this. My husband likes to call me the princess, his little princess pea, because of the old fairy tale about the princess who could feel a pea under 20 mattresses. So, and I was fine with this. I put it on my finger. I wore it around for a little bit and I was good. It did not bother me. With that being said, if you're typing or anything like that, you're probably going to want to go with something a little bit daintier, like this. Hold on just one second. Sorry about that. I had to get the puppies quieted down. Anyways, like I was saying, if you are somebody that is very sensitive to things that are like touching your hand or in between your fingers or whatever else, I would go with this. And I'll tell you, I get these in a package of, I think, 25. They're very inexpensive. And they come with clasps, jump rings, the whole 9 yards. And I'll tell you that they do come in like 18, 20 inch, 22 inch, and 24 inch. And the difference between the 18 inch and the 24 inch is literally less than 5 cents per chain. So it's not anything that's really noticeable. So I always go by the longest chain that is available. So okay, so when we're getting started with this, this is something that you guys are probably going to have to take off and put on and take off and put on several times to get the measurements. But I cut my chain at 3.5 inches. You can see that it's still a little bit, it's got some space up here, but imagine when you're typing or something like that, or like even when I just do that, it pulls it forward. So I wouldn't go any shorter than 3 inches, but 3.5 is what I'm going to use today. So I already cut that piece, and then I cut and put together the 3 sides. So these ones are either side of this. So I still need to do the garnets and connect them to that. And then I have the top piece, which I obviously still need to do the garnet, bottom garnet here. And then I will attach the little piece of the Shanghai chain to the top or around the finger. So I cut a little over 2 inches, 2-inch lengths of sterling silver wire. Let me get these out of the way so that you guys can see. And I'm simply going to start by doing a wrapped loop. So I'm going to come down about an inch to an inch and a quarter. I can probably give myself more room than that. Because if you think about it, my bead's not going to take up that whole middle spot. So I'm okay to come down a little bit. And these are some Beadsmith round nose pliers, guys. And they have a very, very fine tip. Not quite as fine as the blue Xuron pliers, but because these are made of solid metal, and I'm not sure what the tips of the Xuron ones are, but if you try to use anything over 24 gauge wire at the very, very tip, it's very difficult. Whereas on this, I can still go up 1/4 of an inch up the barrel and still have a relatively simple loop. And also, I will tell you that the longest one I have here is for, because we're going to do a knotted head pin. So the longest one right there, that's what that one's for. But I take, just to make it a little bit more streamlined, I will go and take and I will bend over all of the tops of my chain at the same time and just give it a nice right angle bend. And then I'll take one at a time and I'll go up over the top all the way down, rotate it once, turn it, and come back this way. And for those of you who haven't worked with sterling silver wire, the easiest way to tell that it's sterling silver wire is if it doesn't leave like gray behind on your fingers, it's not sterling silver. So now that I have that, I need to stop because I need to connect this to my connector piece, and then I will add it to the chain portion second. So then once I've done that, I'm going to come and I'm going to close my loop back up. And then I like to use my Xuron bent chain nose, flip it over, grab my black needle nose pliers, and I'm just going to wrap this around 2 times. That's it. I'm going to try to keep the focus on the gemstones themselves. And so I'm just going to go around twice. Then I will come down and kind of clean that up a little bit. And I like to do my second wrap. Oh, wrong pliers. So there. My second wrap around, but then back down the side a little bit. And I didn't quite get that on this one. So that you don't really have the end on top or on bottom, like the part that's going to show while it's on your hand. And then I will come in with my flush cutters, get the little burr, and then I'm not going to tuck in this burr right now, and I'll explain why in just a second. So now that it's on my connector, I can go ahead and stick my tile bead on. Oh, that hole didn't want to go through. Didn't want to go onto the wire correctly. There we go. And I did pick specific tiles that I thought they had the most centrally drilled, straightest holes. And that's because this is so simple, but is so visible that I just wanted to make sure that that they look the best. Like I said, they're going to be on the top of the hand. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to put my round nose plier right about there where I'm going to be doing the hole for. Make sure that I have my loops lined up. And I'm going to bend it over the top. I'm going to turn my wrist and my pliers up once. I'm going to go up, over, and back down. Rotate my pliers till they're facing the table, and then pull that back up and around. And then I'm going to pull that out a little bit, otherwise it makes it a little difficult to wrap it up. And then I'm going to take it, I'm going to open my loop just a little bit so that I can get it back onto, so I can get that chain down onto into the loop easily. And then again, I'll grab my bent chain nose pliers. I rotate it this way, up and around. I like to push the bead down, and then I'm going to come in and I'm simply going to do my wraps by grabbing it. And this is the way I like to wrap loops anytime that I need pliers. And when I'm using sterling silver wire and not wanting to be wasteful, I leave more of a tail. And then I do save all of my scraps because there's a young man within the Phoenix metro area whose dad got him silversmithing classes as a Christmas present. And so I saved the scraps of my sterling silver wire for him. Okay. And I hope I wasn't off screen that whole time. I wasn't paying attention. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to close up, make sure that loop, there's no little burr. Now, the reason I said I was going to wait to do the other side is because I have found that it doesn't spin as much once the bead's on there. So you're literally just going in and kind of closing it up alongside the bead, and then it doesn't move as much when I'm trying to tuck it as it does when there's nothing attached to it. So there's our first connection. Put this up here so that the camera isn't confused. We will grab our next piece. We're going to go again up, across, and down. Rotate your pliers, pull it over, make sure that it's a stop sign, a lollipop, however you want to say it. And then we are going to go ahead and I'm going to attach it to the other chain piece first. And then I will add it to the connector this time, because this time it's it's a little busier right there. And so I'm trying to keep things like as focused as I can so that you guys can see them. I'm going to close up my loop. I'm going to grab my bent chain nose pliers. Oh, wrong loop, Heather. Bent chain nose pliers. Rotate my hand, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap this up twice. Up and around. And like I said, I like to go up a little bit onto the side. I'm going to come in here with my flush cutters. I'm going to trim this down. And I have found sometimes when I work with sterling silver wire, like even if when it feels like it cut, if it hasn't, if you bend it back and forth, it'll come right off. But there's that. Let's grab one of our tile beads. Put it on. And then we're going to come in and we're going to, like I said, I like to put my pliers over, twist it over, take my pliers up, facing out. Then I go up, across, and down, turn my pliers so they're facing the table, and come and wrap that around. And then make sure my loop is centered onto the wire, pull it out, and now we're going to add this to the connector. So because we already did this piece of it, we're going to add this one onto the other side. So we just got to open up our loop a little bit to make that easier, especially because as we add more and more pieces, it gets a little bit more fiddly. Close it, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to hold that loop. When you get to these ones, you are going to want your tail facing out a little bit more so that it makes it a little bit easier to do. And I also like to You saw right there the bead like traveled up the wire. I try to get it back in place. And when I'm doing on these ones, obviously you can see I'm doing slower turns. And that's just so that this doesn't get caught up in it or anything like that. Go in, trim off the end, and then come in and tuck in any burrs. The other thing I would stress in this instance is, again, because they are so simple, you want to make sure that everything's good. So right then I was just making sure that my loops matched up. They were facing the same way. Go through just to make sure that they're completely straight with the other one. All right, now we're going to do the top piece. So we're going to take this wire and our round nose pliers. We're going to do another wrapped loop. And just like last time, we'll go ahead and attach it to the connector piece. But I haven't added the chain to this one specifically for this part right here, because I don't want that getting caught up as I'm going around, but we will in just a second. Oh, yes. So we'll close this up, grab our other pliers. See, now I moved my board down, so I wasn't off screen, and now I'm going off screen the other way. X marks the spot might be something I have to do to make sure that I'm staying on camera for you guys. Because I could zoom in or just bring my camera down a bit more, but I've found that this works really well for me. I actually got the tip from Rosanna over on Rose's Garden's channel. I'm sure many of you guys know her, Rosanna Bradford. She's been in the jewelry community much longer than I have. So, and I offered to make her a bead mat, and she told me that she keeps the square where she does, so she knows when and if she goes off camera. So then I was making this for when I demonstrate macrame, and I was like, oh, well, let's just use that until I get used to where the camera is and everything else. And who knows, it might be this green background most of the time, except for when I'm doing projects with green beads. So up, over, down, rotate your pliers, pull your tail back. Oh, that one I got a little high and my loop is bigger. So I'm just going to roll that down a little bit. And then I'm going to I moved my loop further up on to my round nose pliers, so that I could tuck that loop a little bit better. And then we're gonna open the loop and we're gonna add this one. Yeah, we might be in a little bit too far to make sure I stay there. Not a lot out, but just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna open our loop and we're going to attach it to our connector, just like that. And then we are gonna come in and we're gonna close it up. Long pliers. I always want to grab them with the flat nose pliers or the needle nose pliers. And then I'm like, Heather, that's not what you want to do. You're not going to get your loop. Flip it over. And you might see that I'm holding both my, the loop I'm wrapping right now, as well as the loop on the connector. And I'm doing that to make sure I can get a good hold of it. And then I just need to go in and wrap it up right like that. Trim my tail. Tuck in that little bit of a burr. Okay. We're almost done with this, guys. Oh, and if I forgot to say so, which I think I did, I just have 3 little links in between each of these beads. And like I said, with hand chains, it's a lot harder until you get used to making them to get them to where you don't need to check the measurements every time that you go in to do something, which is kind of annoying, but it's also a good thing. And I'm also going to tell you a tip that I would leave. Um, I would plan on making these about half an inch longer than you typically would. And the reason is because it is coming down. And if you're using a connector like this one, it's going to come out more straight. But if you're not, and you're just using jump rings to attach it, like on this one right here, I just put a I put a jump ring. Oh no, I didn't. I attached it directly to that loop. Okay, well, like this one, if you attach it directly to the loop, you're going to need a little bit more play, guys, because depending upon what hand movements you're making, sorry if I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be, but all right, now we're going to make a dangle with our labradorite. And this is another really good thing these teeny tiny pliers come in for. And it's actually the reason I bought them was to make knotted head pins, because I like my loops when I make knotted head pins to be very small. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to go to the very tippy top. And I'm going to go around once, come back up and around, and I'm going to wrap around a second time until I see it meet up. Now, while it's still on the plier, guys, this is the best and easiest way to get this end into this loop. You're just going to bend it up, and this is half hard wire, so it's going to take a little bit more. You're going to tuck your end into the loop, and then you're going to need your nylon jaw pliers, which I have right here, and you're going to want to butt it all the way up to that second wrap right there. You're going to want to do that, and then you're going to grab your pliers, and for this I like to grab, because it's half hard water, a little bit sturdier bent nose plier, and you're going to pull it through. And then I like to come up, and I see that it's got a little bit of an extra bit of that loop there, so I straighten it out and I pull it back down. And then I still am very careful when I take it out of my pliers. I just move it up just enough that I can get my needle nose pliers in there and pull it out. These are brand new jaws. I just put them on. So to kind of straighten out the wire a little bit more. And then very simply, I'm not putting anything else on this bead. I'm just putting the bead down. And I picked one of the like fatter labradorites, and this has so much, like, come on, please focus so they can see the pretty black sparkle. Okay, I can't get it close enough, guys. I'm sorry. But there's so much like black glittery sparkle in this. It's just beautiful. And then we're just going to do a wrapped loop. Hold on while I pause so I can tell my dog to stop barking. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to do a wrapped loop. Same thing, but before I wrap up the loop, I'm obviously going to attach it to the last loop of our connector. And then I'm just going to close that loop back up. I'm going to grab my bent chain nose pliers to hold on to the loop. flip it over to this side, grab my needle nose, and I'm going to wrap it up. And I'm going to be really careful of the tip of this labradorite. I don't want to go any further than that because it would probably chip it if I did. So I'm going to go in. Sorry, I'm being finicky about my little wrap loop there. I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to get as close as I can so I don't have to do a lot of tucking around that little top point of the top point of my labradorite. Let me move all these tools out of the way so you guys can get a better look. And that is my dog scratching at the door. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. They got the zoomies and my craft door doesn't actually like close. So I think hubby will definitely be getting me a new doorknob for this door so that I can actually close it. They're doing zoomies out there, running back and forth, chasing each other. So one pushed another one into the door and the door opened, and so they were all able to come right on in. So I'm just adding the top hand chain, and then I'm going to close this up. And then I'm going to use one of my new favorite clasps, which are the silver-plated hook and eye set. I know I had one out on my mat. Did it fall off the edge? I'm not sure, so I will just grab another one out of my silver container. I'm really liking these guys. Let me zoom out a little bit for a second so you can see. So these are from Art Dot. And this one, I can't remember how many little things it has. I think it has 30 of them in there. And I like these because I was using ones like this. And the only problem is that sometimes I'm bad about putting these back in to the larger container that holds them. And even then, sometimes I'll go to pick it up and one of the tops will flip open. And then there's a big mess to be picked up. And so I got these and I really like it. And I went ahead and thinking about it from Becky, thinking of Becky Foster and the way she organizes stuff and whatever else. I agree. If I can't see my beads, I'm not going to use them. So I had one of the Art Dot ones that had the little containers that looked like Tic Tacs. Don't like it. Can't see my beads through the top. The tops of them are frosted, and there's so many rows of them that it doesn't work for me. So I'm really excited. I've been putting all of my stuff away as soon as I finish a project, and I've been doing all of that. So I think these are going to be a winner, and I'm really excited about it, because I need to get better organized. So this is it's a very simple hook and eye clasp. The nice thing about this one though, is this gives you about a 1/4 inch variance within the clasp itself. Because even if you have this on and you clip through the top, quote unquote, top one right there, it still lays flat up against your wrist. It doesn't twist, it doesn't turn, it doesn't do any of that. And so it's really nice. And I like to attach directly to this whenever I can. But in this instance, I'm going to look for my little, here it is. The one that was missing from that. Whenever I have scrap wire, if there's enough to make one jump ring, I make a jump ring. And then I put the rest in my little scrap container for that young man so that he has it. And I had one out for one side, but not for the other. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to open my jump ring. I'm going to stick it into the last loop, and I'm going to hook on my little figure 8. And I'm going to close it back up. Oh, got that click. You know, it's a tight closure when the wire clicks past. And this loop can be opened and redone, and actually it is open. So we've got to fix that before we put it on. But because I used a jump ring to attach the other one, I need to use a jump ring to attach this one. Otherwise, it's not going to lay flat because they'll be coming from two different directions. Like one will be horizontal while the other is vertical. So we're going to use a jump ring to attach this part too. And if you have the loop going up or down is kind of your choice. But these hook and eye clasps are also very easy to put on yourself. I have found that to be the case. Anyways. Okay, so let's put it on now with the dangle. See how we like it. We like it better than the one without the dangle. Oh yeah, that's pretty. I'm gonna have to get this facing the way I want it. But I like it with the dangle. I like how it just continues down. It makes this really pretty like little diamond here, which is goes with the shape of the labradorite. And like I said, these ones are pretty easy for me, even who has like dexterity problems. Clasp up without any tools. It's not real loose. But you see how it's got more play than you might typically like. With this, you're going to want it because, especially if you're wearing this to the office and you type a lot and anything like that, you're going to want it to lay right. But I will put pictures of it both ways up on the post so that you guys can see. And I just like the way that lays. It's so pretty. I could have even put a garnet on top of that had I wanted it to dangle down any lower. But you'll have to take my word for it. There is one thing I'm going to do. I may take my bracelet bender or just my vet chain nose pliers and bend these loops in just a little bit, this one and this one. Here, I'll just do that before I go so I can show you what I mean. Because it's not wanting to lay, because our wrists are curved. They're not flat. So it makes sense. So I'm just going to take this and and it just broke. Oh, Heather, you weren't thinking these were alloy connectors. Okay, well, now I'm going to have to fix that, but it's all right. I can't believe I just did that. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'll probably do it because I won't have to be up so far before I put it back on, but wah wah. I'm gonna leave this in because it happens, guys. We all go through it, we all have it happen. Just not typically on camera while you're trying to do the tutorial and look like a pro, you know. But hey, I'm not a pro. I'm an at-home jewelry maker who have been doing this for a few years, just getting towards it. But it's all right, I'll fix it. But after I thought of leaving the bottom loop on, I found some other connectors in my stash. Wrong way. There we go. I found some other connectors in my stash and just think about how I might use this one for the anklet later on this afternoon or this evening when I go live when hubby's home to corral the dogs. And I was just thinking like I probably would have been able to bend this one because this has a lot more heft to it. It's a lot thicker. It's much easier. This one you could use a bracelet bender and just very lightly do it. So, which is what I might do with the other one. But that's our project for today. Even if it got a little messy at the end. And don't worry, I'm going to figure out how to like clean up that display area a little better. And for some reason, from this angle, it looks like this is crooked, but it's not, I promise. It's hung straight. It just looks crooked, and I don't know why, and it drives me crazy, but it'll drive me more crazy if I try to make it level or just on camera. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it enough to come and join me over on Titi's Trinkets and Treasures. I'll leave a link below to come and take a look at it. And then come over and join us this evening so that you can learn how to make the inklet version of this. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you later. Bye, all.